I mean, we were texting a little bit before the Arnold this year, you know, the early season, and he was sending me some updated pictures, and you know, he's kind of been under the radar. I haven't heard from him lately, and you know, I always told him the same thing that everybody's told him. You don't have to be so big.
Right.
Just worry about. I just hate that people are like, oh, come down in the 280 and you'll be good. It's not about the weight sometimes, Dave. It's just, you know, you got to go by the mirror and say, okay, what's going to be the best condition? And we all know the guy has more muscle than almost everyone in certain areas, especially the legs. The legs need to come down a little bit in order for the balance to look right.
Right.
But he's been second. I mean, if he shows up his best ever, we'll see. I mean, the problem is, you know, he just hasn't hit it yet. And we've been talking about this since 2013. I mean, it's 7 years later, and we're still waiting, right?
And 7 coaches later, too.
Yeah, so, you know, it's hard as you get older, right? You usually peak into your late 30s, and, you know, there's the rare cases that people go into their 40s and compete. I mean, 20 years ago, it was unheard of that a guy competes at 40 years old at the biggest contest in the world, except for the Albert Beckel days or whatever, but that was a few anomalies of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So do you think that Ramy has, well, let me ask you this question. As a guy who's got very good insight into looking at people and analyzing what's going on, what do you think is wrong? What's going wrong in the Ramy camp? Is it him not listening? Is it these coaches not being able to figure out his body? Is it that people see him and then they think it's going to be easy, and then at the last minute they panic? Why hasn't anyone really dialed in? Personally, I think, and I'm not just saying this because we both are friends with Chris, I think Chris nailed it the best with him the 1 year he worked with him, and when he hit that Arnold Europe show, I thought he was his best ever. But it seems like people have trouble getting this guy in shape.
From the outside in, Dave, I'd have to say, and this, I don't know anything about his nutrition, but I would probably say the guy is a genetic wonder where it probably doesn't take a lot of calories for him to be as big as he is.
Right.
So when you work with someone, you think, okay, the guy's huge. He's 300 pounds. I have to feed him enough for a 300-pound bodybuilder. So if you follow what kind of tools we all use as nutritionists to diet people down, I would think that the guy probably has to basically eat a lot less calories than I ever had to dial down. And I think that's where the confusion is. And, you know, you can put the guy on 3 hours of cardio a day, but maybe that doesn't work. But I see him as like a low carb dieter, which can be a little tricky sometimes because, you know, sometimes the body just fights to take the rest of the body fat off, and it's hard to dial him down. That's my opinion. And I think, you know, there's confusion with him, and I think it's nerves. I think he has nerves when he gets up there because there's so much pressure on this guy, because when you have the name Big Ramy, what are the expectations, right?
Right. You're right. So, no, it's funny, but it's you're right 100%, you know.
I mean, remember Nasser al-Sambadi, how big he was, right? He was way ahead of the time. Right. I mean, he was a guy that competed at 280. Yeah. And, you know, he was in great condition. Yeah. And, I mean, he was knocking at Dorian's door a couple times. And it just from the backside, he just wasn't as comparable. But, I mean, realistically, he was one of the freakiest bodybuilders we've ever seen.
Absolutely. And he had reckless cockiness, which is why I believe he was so good, because he really believed he was that good, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's the big question mark. I mean, I don't work with the guy. I don't know what he eats. I don't know how he trains. I've seen a few videos, but I just think, you know, sometimes the people around you, you've got to kind of solitude yourself and just kind of follow your own path.